stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference.
Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, October 11th, 2022, and this is episode number 440 of a show where we co-create life together, where you join me with my family on our small farm and homestead as we grow all around. And in today's episode, this is also a show where you join me with my community as we grow all around. The topic of today's show is, well, it's Odd Fellows. But I will be sharing some of my experiences with the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. And just figured the title of the show would be Odd Fellows since it's a little bit shorter, and oftentimes that's typically what we're known as, Odd Fellows. Before we dive into all of the guts of the show for today, let's go ahead and take care of some real quick housekeeping. We'll cover the show's sponsor and some affiliates and things like that before we get into things. As always, the show's sponsor is York Meadow Farm. If you are interested in healthy fermented foods and natural bath and body products delivered to your door, we're your huckleberry. York Meadow Farm creates small batches of handcrafted probiotic-rich fermented foods and small handcrafted batches of artisan soaps, hand creams, and other bath and body products. So check out the link in the show notes for more on that, to support the show, to support my family, and to nourish you and your family from the inside and out. As far as affiliates go, that is something that I do not speak about all that frequently, but these are things that make my life easier. And because I keep myself fairly busy with the lifestyle that I live now, I certainly do appreciate these two services that make my life just that much easier. The two that I'm talking about today are Instacart and Buzzsprout. Instacart has gotten to the point where it's astonishing. For those of you who may be like me, that live on the fringes of town, kind of on the suburban rural fringe, you're still in town, not that far out, you're likely an eligible candidate. Or if you're in town in the suburbs, of course you're an eligible candidate for Instacart. But I'm right there. It's 15 minutes to town. But I've figured out, by the time I actually drive to town, take the time to go shopping, or even if I call it in and pick it up, oftentimes with the amount of time that I spent driving into town, getting the actual groceries, the money spent on fuel, it's so much easier for me just to have them delivered to my door. And I don't know, it's oftentimes it happens quicker. So you can get stuff delivered in less than an hour. If you order routinely, it saves your order. I don't know. I mean, yeah, am I shilling Instacart? You bet. It's great. And if you're not using it and you're thinking about it, click on the link for the show notes. It helps you, it helps me. We both benefit from it. And as far as Buzzsprout goes, look, guys, you're listening to this podcast on a podcast host. All the podcast, or through a podcast host rather, all of the podcasts that you enjoy are delivered in the same way, through some kind of podcast host out there. I've used several in the past to get to where I am now, creating content, including Libsyn. I've decided that Buzzsprout is the one that works best for me, and it's one I endorse and support. So if you are interested in checking out a podcast or creating a podcast, you're not really sure which host to use, give Buzzsprout a try. You won't regret it. It's very easy to use, integrates very easily with everything. Just check it out. Check out the link in the show notes. All right, now let's dive into the show. Now, like I said, the topic of today's show is the independent order of Oddfellows. So, what exactly is the independent order of Oddfellows, right? I've done some shows. I've touched on this in shows in the past, specifically episode number 405, where we talked about knowledge, education, and self-improvement. And we talked about setting goals and things of that nature. And I talked about the importance of involvement with your community with regard to social goals. One of the ways that you can do that is through organizations like the Oddfellows. Now, in past episodes, I've also touched on this before, but I haven't really done a dedicated episode on this. And after last night, and what I shared in the Telegram group at t.me/allaroundgrowth, I wanted to do a dedicated episode on the organization today so that you can learn more about what I'm experiencing, what I'm talking about in the group. All right. Now, the Independent Order of Oddfellows is a non-political and non-sectarian international fraternal order of odd fellowship. It was founded in 1819 by Thomas Wildley in Baltimore, Maryland. All right, so that brief snapshot definition comes from Wikipedia. And I'm going to reference the primary Oddfellows page in the show notes as well, which you can find at odd-fellows.org. And in a nutshell, if you've been searching for a way to help others and be a part of something bigger than yourself, this is the episode for you. Welcome to the Independent Order of Oddfellows. So, before I read a little bit about who we are, the history of us, let's snapshot this, right? What is this all about? What are we all about? The Oddfellows started as a way to care for their members in a time when there were no systems in place to ensure one's welfare, health, or job protection. Back in the early days, insurance companies and government programs that provided sick and death benefits did not actually exist. Sickness or death of a breadwinner frequently meant poverty, and the responsibility of burial depended on the family. During the 19th century, life insurance was available only to the wealthy and beyond the financial ability of the average working class. For these reasons, the Independent Order of Oddfellows took on the responsibilities of visiting the sick, burying the dead, educating the orphans, and caring for the widows as a way to support widows, orphans, and families in need. So in a nutshell, guys, that is what the Oddfellows are. That's what Oddfellowship is about. So who are we? All right. Now, as an organization, the Independent Order of Oddfellows aims to provide a framework that provides personal and social development. For members, the degrees in Oddfellowship emphasize a leaving of the old life and the start of a better one, and of helping those in need. The command of the Independent Order of Oddfellows is to visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. Specifically, members today are dedicated to the following purposes: to improve and elevate the character of mankind by promoting the principles of friendship, love, truth, faith, hope, charity, and universal justice. To help make the world a better place to live in by aiding each other, the community, the less fortunate, the youth, the elderly, and the environment in every way possible. To promote goodwill and harmony amongst peoples and nations through the principle of universal fraternity, holding the belief that all men and women, regardless of race, nationality, religion, social status, gender, rank, and station, are brothers and sisters. Now, our mission is simple. As an organization, the Independent Order of Oddfellows aims to provide a framework that provides personal and social development. Lodge degrees and activities aim to improve and elevate every person to a higher, nobler plane, to extend sympathy and aid to those in need, making their burdens lighter, relieving the darkness of despair, to war against vice in every form, and to be a great moral power and influence for the good of humanity. A lot of this is a repeat of what I just read. And ideally, an Oddfellows Lodge is a place for fellowship in all its forms, from hanging out and just having fun, to discussion, to networking, to collaboration on creative and constructive projects, all with an eye not only on our own satisfaction, but on what we might offer to the community at large. An ideal lodge is a great venue for a lot of positive energy, and all members are encouraged to contribute their share. In addition, lodges provide an international social network of brothers and sisters that extends to 30 countries worldwide. If traveling is an interest, membership can provide a valuable network that will very much welcome an international visitor and assist in their enterprises and certainly their travels wherever possible. So that's another benefit of membership within the Independent Order of Oddfellows. There's more information through the link that will be in the show notes. But let's take a look at a little bit of the history and how everything began. We understand that the Oddfellows was founded in 1819 by Thomas Wildley in Baltimore, Maryland, and we understand the objective of the group, which was initially started as a way to care for members in a time when there were no systems in place to ensure the welfare of the community. So, what else? Now, Odd Fellowship does not seek a veiled origin in the misty shades of the past to surround it with the false glamour that arises from the belief in the doctrine of omne ignotum pro magnifico. This age of enlightenment has emaciated us from the gross credulity of the past. Antiquity bears with it no passport of truth or goodness. This comes from the Odd Fellowship, its history and manual by Theo A. Ross. Now, the exact date of the very first founding of Odd Fellowship is lost in the fogs of antiquity. Some historians trace its roots back to the medieval trade guilds of the 12th and 13th centuries, while others estimated that it existed before 1650. What is clear is that there were a number of Oddfellow groups in England during the 1700s. It is said that the titles of the offices of the lodge were taken from the Order of Gregorians, which met at St. Albans in May of 1736. Other evidence suggests that our origins were in an organization known as the Ancient Order of Bucks, which thrived in England in the 18th century and had as its emblem 3 bucks with their antlers intertwined. These men had as their leader a most noble grand and met in clubrooms and taverns. One of their principal emblems was a bundle of sticks, familiar to modern Oddfellows as signifying strength in union. Now, in 1745, Daniel Defoe mentions the Society of Oddfellows, and in the Gentleman's Magazine, the Oddfellows Lodge is mentioned as a, quote, place where very pleasant and recreative evenings are spent, close quote. The earliest surviving printed official lodge record is said to be the rules of loyal Aristarchus, Lodge number 9 in England, dated March 12, 1748. Now, this establishes the fact that this lodge has been operating for some time prior thereto, and its number indicates that at least 8 other lodges that are associated with each other had existed up to that time. Now, the poet James Montgomery wrote a song for a body of Oddfellows in 1788. The Oddfellows' keepsake states that the early English lodges were supported and their members relieved by each member and visitor paying a penny to the secretary on entering the lodge. These allusions are sufficient proof of the existence of the order at that time, but they tell us nothing of its aims, objects, and characteristics. From other sources, it is known that the lodges were originally formed by working men for social purposes and for giving the brethren aid and assisting them to obtain employment when out of work. When a brother could not obtain work, he was given a card and funds enough to carry him to the next lodge. And if unsuccessful there, that lodge facilitated his further progress in the same way. Where he found employment, there he deposited his card. At first, there was little or no ritual, no formal method of conducting the business of the lodge. These were matters of gradual and slow growth. The English are and were very conservative and do not readily yield to innovations. Time, however, works wonders, so that in the end, many radical and necessary changes were made in the order. Even to this day, some of the original and characteristic features of the order are still practiced in the English branch of the fraternity. In the early days of the institution, after the formal business was transacted, conviviality and good fellowship became the order of the night, and the brethren, glass and pipe in hand, made the welkin ring with the melody of their favorite songs. When friendship, love, truth abound among a band of brothers, the cup of joy goes gaily round, each shares the bliss of others. Then let us be social, be generous, be kind, and let each take his glass and be mellow. Then we'll join heart in hand, leave dissensions behind, and we'll prove each a hearty Oddfellow. Now, King George IV of England, while still Prince of Wales, was admitted to membership around 1780. The oldest surviving revised initiation ritual dates back to March 12th, 1797, under the, quote, Order of Patriotic Oddfellows. Now, in 1798, it was mentioned that the original United Order of Oddfellows consisted of a total of 50 lodges in England and its environs. Now, for a time, fraternal and friendly societies like the Oddfellows were suppressed in England. Membership became a criminal offense, and such organizations were driven underground and forced to use codes, passwords, special handshakes, and similar mechanisms. Fear of revolution was not the sole reason for persecution. Fraternal and friendly societies like the Oddfellows were the predecessors of modern-day trade unions and could facilitate effective local strike action by levying all of their members for additional contributions for their benevolent funds, out of which payments could be made to the families of members who were on strike. In the early history of the order, each lodge was the arbiter of its own fate and practically supreme. The doctrine of self-institution prevailed then, as it did afterwards. Secessions from lodges were frequent and rendered the lodges less able to fulfill the object of their being. The brethren were slow to learn that, quote, in union there is strength, close quote. In 1803, the Oddfellows were revived by an organization called the, quote, London Union Oddfellows, which later claimed itself as the Grand Lodge of England and assumed authority over all Oddfellow lodges in that country. In 1810, however, several lodges located in the Manchester area declared themselves as an independent order of Oddfellows, with the title Manchester Unity. In 1814, they elected officers and proceeded to standardize degree work of the lodges. With their improved system, they were able to persuade other lodges to join their unity. They also chartered the Independent Order of Oddfellows in North America. And more Oddfellow history can be seen on the Manchester Unity website, which I'll go ahead and link to in the show notes as well, just for reference for those who want to see how things go way back, the deep history. Now, there is also a link to the in-depth history in North America, the history of American Odd Fellowship. I'll go ahead and link to that in the show notes. But for the sake of time, I'll just go ahead and continue reading the synopsis on the history of the Independent Order of Oddfellows. Now, while several Oddfellow lodges had existed in New York sometime in 1806 to 1818, the Independent Order of Oddfellows was officially organized on April 26, 1819 in Baltimore, Maryland by Thomas Wildley and 4 other members of the fraternity from England. Now, since then, the Independent Order of Oddfellows has spread throughout the world, where it currently has about 10,000 lodges located in Australia, Austria, Belgium, Belize, Canada, Chile, Cuba, the Czech Republic, Denmark, the Dominican Republic, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Iceland, Mexico, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Norway, Poland, Philippines, Puerto Rico, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, the United States, Uruguay, and Venezuela. And since 2001, the International Order of Oddfellows has been fully co-ed, and all genders can join Oddfellows lodges. All right, so there you have it, guys. That is a little bit of the history of the Odd Fellowship. And let's go ahead and touch on a little bit of the history of American Odd Fellowship, moving on into the 1900s, if we will. Now, there is something of note. The American Civil War that took place between 1861 and 1865 shattered the Independent Order of Oddfellows in America. Membership decreased and many lodges were unable to continue their work, especially in the southern states. During these years, the roll of southern jurisdictions was regularly called during the annual sessions of the Sovereign Grand Lodge. And at the close of the war, the officers and members in the South were welcomed to the chairs and seats which had been held for them during the 4 years of strife and separation. The roll call at Baltimore on September 18th of 1865 by the Venerable Grand Secretary Ridgely was notable even in fraternal circles. Every survivor answered to his name, and appointments had been made to fill vacancies so that the representation was complete. Attempts had been made throughout the states composing the Southern Confederacy with varying success to keep up the organizations of the order, but at this reunion, measures were unanimously adopted whereby fraternal hands and hearts assisted in rebuilding the waste places. This was the first fraternization of the blue and gray, and the procession in the streets of Baltimore the next day, occupying more than 1 hour in passing at any given point, attracted national attention. The marshals were Joseph Kidder of New Hampshire and John Q.A. Herring of Maryland. Now, after the Civil War, with the beginnings of industrialization and deteriorating social circumstances brought large numbers of people to the Independent Order of Oddfellows, and the lodges rallied. Now, over the next half century, known as the Golden Age of Fraternalism in America, the Oddfellows became the largest among all fraternal organizations, even larger at that time than Freemasonry. Now, by 1889, the Independent Order of Oddfellows had lodges in every American state, and in 1896, the World Almanac showed the Oddfellows as the largest among all fraternal organizations. Now, by the late 19th century, the order had spread to most of the rest of the world, establishing lodges in the Americas, Australasia, and Europe. And according to the journal, the annual communication of the Sovereign Grand Lodge in 1922, page 426, there were a reported 2,676,582 members. While this data from 1921 may not be the exact zenith of its membership, the organization experienced a loss in membership of 23.5% between 1920 and 1930. This shift was due to the Great Depression and the introduction of Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, which knelled the end of the golden age of fraternalism and started a decline in membership. During the Depression, people could not afford Oddfellows membership fees and many lodges closed. And when the New Deal's social reforms started to take effect, the need for the social work of the Oddfellows declined. In 1971, moving into the modern era now, in 1971, the Independent Order of Oddfellows changed its constitution, removing its whites-only clause. Now, in 1979, the order had 243,000 members. In 2001, the Independent Order of Oddfellows voted to allow women to join the Oddfellows itself instead of the organization known as the Rebeccas, which was the kind of the women's section of the order. Now, although there was a decline in membership in fraternal organizations in general during the 20th century, membership in the 21st century started to increase with new generations discovering the charitable fraternal experience with the order, being drawn to its history and its mystery. And several jurisdictions are experiencing a net growth in membership, and the order has been recently reestablished in the Philippines, and there is a pretty large membership there, if I'm not mistaken. Now, on April 26th, 2019, that was the 200th anniversary of the self-institution of the Washington Lodge No. 1 by Thomas Wildley. And it was in 2019 where I joined Morningstar Lodge number 26. And I'm digging around in my pocket, and you may hear that because in my pocket I carry the coin that was given to me. That reads, "We command you to visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan." That is what we do, and what we are. We are people who seek to elevate and improve the character of mankind through the principles of friendship, love, and truth. I joined in the early part of 2019, and I joined on the 200th anniversary of Lodge number 1. I think that's pretty cool. Now, there's some more information in here on the history, but you get it. Now, I do want to share with you a little bit about my own lodge, my little community here, and what we do in our community and how we support the community, right? Now, the 3 big projects that we have: we sell Christmas trees. We sell Christmas trees on the square. It's an old school setup, very much like the Christmas Story. Even now, we're still able to get permits to have a little bonfire, have a little fire pit on the square, sell Christmas trees, tie them up on people's cars. It's something we've been doing for decades, and then we use the proceeds of that to take local children in the Medina community Christmas shopping. And that is a great way to give back. Now, we also serve as the caretakers for the baby section at Spring Grove Cemetery, and that is another one of the ongoing projects in which we serve our local community. And that's basically who we are. We're a group of men dedicated to giving back to our community. Our lodge, Morningstar Lodge number 26, was founded or chartered in 1844. And one of the original founding members of our lodge was the prominent citizen H.G. Blake, who also founded the Old Phoenix Bank right there in town. So at the end of the day, guys, there's a couple questions that I think are worth taking into consideration. And I want you to ask yourself, have you been searching for a way to help others and be a part of something bigger than yourself? Do you want to learn to be a better person and empower yourself to be more successful in all parts of your life? Do you want to help make your community a better place and help those in need? Or do you feel lonely or crave quality social interactions and want to be part of something important? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you may be odd enough. We all believe that life is a commitment to improve and elevate the character of mankind through service and example. Our legacy has been 200 years of helping each other and others without seeking anything in return. Odd fellows are aware of the vanity of earthly things, the frailty and inevitable decay of human life, and the fact that wealth has no power to stop the sureness of eventual death. So the final question you need to ask yourself is, how am I going to spend my life? We offer a philosophy for life. The Odd Fellows are a diverse group of people who want to make a difference in our communities and the world by turning the lessons taught in our initiation and degrees into direct action. The degrees of initiation in our fraternity seek to improve and elevate the character of members by imparting moral principles exemplified through story, drama, and symbols, which we adapted from the medieval trade guilds. Our lessons aim to promote the lesson of tolerance, which results to harmony and understanding between people from different walks of life. We endeavor to bridge the gap of differences and serve as a venue where acquaintances and even enemies can become true friends using the purest and practical form of fraternity. We are simply about promoting the culture of caring and sharing, of not leaving each other behind, of thinking beyond the self, and of helping others in need. The command of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows is to visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. The Independent Order of Odd Fellows was the original social network. The lodge provides a place to foster new friendships with people you can depend on. The structure provides a way to learn valuable skills that carry over into all areas of life, and the flexibility makes each lodge have its own unique culture. Members also enjoy an international social network of many thousands that extends to more than 30 countries worldwide. And like I said previously, if traveling is an interest to you, membership can provide a valuable network that will very much welcome you as an international visitor and assist in any enterprises that you may have. But moreover, the ability to connect locally with people in all of the ways that I mentioned make this an idea worth entertaining, make this an organization worth thinking about joining. And again, the Odd Fellows started as a way to care for their members in a time when there were no systems in place to ensure one's welfare, health, or job protection. Back in the early days, insurance companies and government programs that provided sick and death benefits did not actually exist. Sickness or death of a breadwinner during the 19th century frequently meant poverty, and the responsibility of burial depended on the family. Now, at that time, life insurance was available only to the wealthy and beyond the financial ability of the average working class people. For these reasons, the Independent Order of Oddfellows took on the responsibilities of visiting the sick, burying the dead, educating the orphans, and caring for the widows as a way to support widows, orphans, and families in need. And guys, even though there are systems in place now that assist with these things, it's critical, in my humble opinion, that institutions like the Independent Order of Oddfellows continue to exist, to continue to grow, to continue to support in ways that these other organizations cannot. For example, last night, in a matter of minutes, we decided to donate thousands of dollars to families of cancer patients, people in need, and proud people who won't ask for help. And that's what we're here to do. And that's what we do. And although I shared this story last night in the Telegram group, I'll go ahead and share it with you before we wrap up. One new initiative that we decided to engage in was a scholarship program. At the local high school, we've got some high school teachers, some coaches, good men. And they've put together a scholarship program. And generally, as they read this thing and shared the information with the lodge, new business to attend to, it was brought to our attention that generally these scholarship funds are dedicated to someone who has passed, a fund in remembrance of someone. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to acknowledge someone that's here now, that's delivered measurable results over time. Someone who's been involved in the community, that shows up at the meetings almost every week and shows up early. Someone who's there, someone who cares. And that man's name is Jerry Gunner. Jerry's a little hard of hearing now in his 80s. That man's still built like a brick shithouse, guys. I've heard stories of him throwing around kegs, carrying one under each arm. Used to teach wrestling. Even at 80 years old, I wouldn't want to mess with Jerry Gunner. But he's got a heart of gold. And so now, we can give to a student who embodies those characteristics. And when Jerry actually found out what the lodge was doing in naming this scholarship fund after him, well, the participation made it all worthwhile, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. I witnessed the emotions from a man who realized that his life's work had culminated in that moment, that he'd done all right. So guys, what are you doing with your life? How are you going to spend your life? If you find yourself thinking about that question, then think about the Independent Order of Oddfellows, because you may be odd enough. Check out the links in the show notes for more information, and you are always welcome to ask me questions I may know. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.
Answers a few. People turn away, and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love, and truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. Whoa, whoa. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. And know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe